COVID-19 Support Fund for Tourism Resilience and Recovery. The $100 million package is meant to improve the resilience, effectiveness, and efficiency of actors in the tourism sector as the country prepares for the reopening of the 2020-2021 tourist season. The beneficiaries include taxi drivers, tourist taxi drivers, fruit sellers, juice pressers, hairdressers, Senegambia market vendors, Kotu market vendors, Cape Point market craft vendors, craft market vendors around the other sectors or areas where tourists actually go to, tourist guides and bird watchers, miscellaneous businesses, hotels, guest houses and motels, up-country lodges and camps, ground operators, equipment hirers and car rental companies, tourist boats, vessels and pirogues, bars, restaurants and clubs, beach bars, travel agencies, casinos, and gaming houses, the Gambia Tourism and Hospitality Institute, the Institute of Travel and Tourism of the Gambia, the Fashion Designers Association, the Book Publishers Association, the Theatre Association, artist groups, Film Producers Association, the National Center for Arts and Culture, and the Music Union Association. So these are actually going to be the beneficiaries of this $100 million support from the government of the Gambia to help the actors in the tourism subsector as the country prepares for the 2020-2021 tourist season. The Ministry of Land, Regional Government and Religious Affairs. As part of efforts to combat land-related disputes in the country, the Ministry of Lands, Regional Government and Religious Affairs is currently working on the development of a systematic cadastral mapping system for the Gambia. Cadastral mapping is an information system and legal database for land ownership and usage in a given country. Extensive progress has been made so far, and when finalized, the new system will ameliorate land and natural resources conflicts in the Gambia. Disputes relating to land ownership in the country, especially within the Greater Banjul area, have escalated in the last decade. This is mainly as a result of the increase in the urban demographic and an upsurge of property value in the Greater Banjul area. While plans are being worked out for the introduction of the systematic cadastral mapping, the Ministry of Lands and Regional Government is currently using GPS coordinate system as an intercept and a short-term measure to minimize land-related conflicts. The short-term measure allows each parcel of land to be geo-referenced using its coordinates as a unique identifier of a precise geographic location of a land within a particular area. This upgrade will effectively help the ministry mitigate incidents of leasing one parcel of customary land to multiple users. The Ministry of Youth and Sports, and this relates to the Youth Revolving Fund scheme, which was just recently established by the ministry. The Ministry of Youth and Sports has introduced a Youth Revolving Fund scheme under the Youth and Sports Development Levy. The scheme has a startup fund of $22 million, which will be periodically replenished to deepen outreach and maximize impact. The revolving fund comprises 1, the seed fund to be managed by the Social Development Fund, and 2, grant, training, coaching, and mentoring to be managed by the National Enterprise Development Initiative, NEDI. In view of the above, a memorandum of understanding has been signed on the implementation of the Youth Revolving Fund scheme between the Ministry of Youth and Sports through the National Enterprises Development Initiative, NEDI, and the Social Development Fund, SDF. NEDI is mandated to identify, select, train potential and existing youth on entrepreneurship, to provide coaching and mentoring services, microfinance provision to the young people of the Gambia. The management of NEDI, as part of its preparation processes, recently visited Bureng and Jataba, both in Jara East and Kiang West, to facilitate the operation of the micro-agro processing centers in the two communities for the youth and women entrepreneurs in the region. The Ministry of Petroleum and Energy. The Ministry of Petroleum and Energy recently validated the Gambia Green Mini-Grids feasibility studies, which is part of the Gambia GMG Country Support Program funded by the Sustainable Energy Fund for Africa, SIFA, of the African Development Bank. The availability of reliable, efficient, affordable, and environmentally friendly electricity supply is one of the cornerstones of the Gambia government's development aspirations for the energy sector, as elaborated in the sector policies, strategies, and national development plans. The Ministry of Petroleum and Energy is committed to promoting alternative electrification solutions as a necessary vehicle to provide access to these communities beyond the reach of the national grid. As part of the ministry's national strategy for universal electricity access, the Gambia government has set a target to connect 1/3 of the rural population through off-grid solutions by 2030, mainly through green mini-grids and stand-alone home system. The Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Regional Government. The Ministry of Trade, Industry, Regional Government, and Employment, through its projects, continue to provide support to small and medium-scale enterprises, SMEs, to enhance their recovery process following the COVID-19 pandemic. Under this initiative, the ministry, through the Enhanced Integration Framework Sustainability Support Phase project, has been supporting the Department of Fisheries in the construction of a smokehouse for women fish processors at the Tanje Community Fishing Center. Under the Sea Trade Gambia project, the ministry is supporting 82 women-owned businesses to enhance their economic participation in the horticulture and textile garment value chains. The project focuses on improving the capacities of the women entrepreneurs to improve the quality and packaging of their products. The project is also supporting in the creation of market linkages between women farmers to potential buyers. At the beginning of 2020, the Sea Trades project was able to link importers to women onion farmers to mop up their produce during the state of public emergency. Through this initiative, importers have committed to buying all locally produced onions during the onion season henceforth, thus addressing the challenges of market access for women farmers. In addition, the Ministry of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment is on course to develop a domestic trade strategy to promote domestic production using trade as a stimulus to export-led growth and development. To address the challenges relating to access to finance for women businesses, the Sea Trades project has established a mini-grant scheme to women-owned enterprises to expand their businesses and also address their capacity needs. In this regard, 4 women were supported with a grant of $250,000 each. Personnel Management Office, and this one relates to the disbursement of loans to civil servants. The Personnel Management Office has completed the disbursement of batch 14 of the Civil Service Revolving Loan Scheme. This was disbursed to all the 3 different categories of loan beneficiaries, namely personal, car, and housing loans to eligible civil servants in the first half of 2020 fiscal year. In this regard, 107 people benefited from personal loans, 18 people benefited from car loans, and 14 people benefited from housing loans. The fundamental objectives of the Civil Service Revolving Fund Scheme is geared towards attracting, retaining, and motivating a highly professional workforce for effective and efficient service delivery. This scheme is playing an important role in the attraction and retention of key public servant personnel in the Gambia. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. And now we go to the question and answer session of our weekly press briefing. So any one of you who has a question,
thank you, Honorable.
And just come.
Yes. Thank you, Honorable, for that report. Hello?
Yes, we are getting you now.
Yes, all right. You can go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, Honorable Minister, thank you very much for today's press conference too. My first question will be, you've seen the past 48 hours, the President of the Republic have made some reshuffle, basic reshuffle in the cabinet. Can you tell us what is really linked to such reshuffles? As some of these positions, people have been saying that the particular individuals are not eligible or are not really delivering to expectation. Are some of those things why the president did the reshuffle?
Okay, thank you so much, Africa, for that question. Unfortunately, as a minister, I am not privy to the decisions that might have led to the recent cabinet reshuffle, as you said. As you know, the president is mandated by law to hire and fire, who actually can be in his cabinet. So, I think as you can see in the press release from the office of the president, the president relied on those particular sections of the constitution to effect the reshuffle in his cabinet.
My follow-up, my second question will be, we've seen last week the president went to North Bank to launch projects there, which it has been the concern of many.
Yes.
As such an event supposed not to be held, especially in this pandemic period. We've seen that day before yesterday they embarked on such in other part of the country. What is actually behind? What prompted the government to just get up per se and try to launch some of these projects or laying of foundation stones? Many believe that in terms of laying of foundation stone, in as much as we are in the pandemic, those projects can begin till at the end, then a grand launching can be done. But what is the actual thing behind the presidency prompting to just declare that I'm going to the North Bank to launch project ABC and others, especially in this trying time? Because many said, especially in the North Bank, many said that if such gatherings can occur and the nation go free, why not they open schools? the tourism industry area. People are not, business are not going as usual. Why government is now concentrating on something that may be by bringing people together up to such magnitude of people, and then they're giving deaf ear to their cry in terms of giving them the privilege for them to be earning ends meet.
Well, I think you might have heard me at the beginning of the briefing that government is giving out a stimulus package of $100 million to the actors in the tourism industry. So it is not necessarily true that we are turning a deaf ear to the players in the tourism sector. Equally, you might have heard the president announce yesterday that another $250 million of stimulus package and support is going to be extended to Gambians across the country. So it is also not true to say that we are turning a deaf ear to the plight of the people. Last week, the Ministry of Secondary and Basic Education issued a press release to say that preparations are being made for the eventual reopening of schools. You had, even at the beginning of this week, cluster monitors were gathered in all the regions of the country to prepare and to provide the necessary statistics in terms of readiness, in terms of what has to be done for the eventual reopening of schools. Because a lot of things need to be put into action before those things can be done. You have seen in other countries where schools were open and then they were eventually closed again. So according to the Ministry of Basic Education, they don't want that to happen here. So that is why all these preparations are being done. Just like the entire population, we are also equally concerned about the long haul of this closure of the schools. But I can tell you that government is working, for the eventual opening of schools, and pretty soon. Now, regarding what was responsible, why the president is, going around, to open some of these projects. These are highly important projects, especially when it comes to, when you talk of, say, the Hakalang Road. For more than 50 years, this particular road, had been like that. And it is an important national pride that the entire fund is generated by the Gambia government through the tax money of the Gambian people, and therefore going to start that work. I think it is a semblance of national pride to go there and open it, for the Gambian people to know that this is what is happening with their tax monies. Now, the Senegambia corridor, as you may know, is an important interlink between the Gambia and the rest of, Africa, not only West Africa, because this is one of the roads that is identified as the important road network in the country that links with the rest of Africa. Starting from Egypt, going all the way to Lagos, then through Bamako, Mali, to Senegal, then to the Gambia, to Guinea-Bissau, and then also through the Guinea-Conakry corridor. So this is an important commitment that the government of the Gambia has to show, in its readiness for the All Africa Trade Initiative that was endorsed by the African Union and the heads of state. So it is important also to know that Gambia, as part of its shared responsibility, has started the initiative not only to open that corridor, but to upgrade the road to the international standard. Now, COVID-19 has been tooted around. A lot of scientists are now saying that this may be with us for quite a long time. So therefore, we should learn to cope with this disease. We should learn to live with this disease. And that means that also we have to have some coping mechanisms. So we should not subject our lives to the fear factor that, yes, we have a pandemic. We will have to learn to live with it, observe all the necessary protocols that are being advised to us by the healthcare personnel. And in so doing, government should not also completely close down. We need to work, we need to provide the necessary support to our people, and we need to see that life goes on in tandem, like, with all other communicable diseases. People have started, coming up with some coping mechanisms for COVID-19. You have to ensure that we observe the protocols, but, we also move on with our lives.
Just a follow up to one of the questions, one of your answers.
Yes.
We engage some people in the tourism industry. They give an example of, like, one of them told us that I have been sitting at home for more than 6 months, and what I am giving is $50, equivalent to $50. Is that enough for someone?
You mean the staff, the payment of the package to the staff? Yeah. That was the UNDP support fund.
Yes. So how much enough is the government really committed to continue bailing out some of these businesses or some of these individuals who are working in such industry? Because
thank you so much. Let me say that this is an unusual environment that we have found ourselves in. It's an unusual period. So therefore, anything that can be done to support everyone affected by the pandemic should be, accelerated. But remember also that our effort as a government is to ensure that we provide the necessary enabling environment. Now we know that COVID-19 has ravaged the businesses to the point that a lot of people were laid off. And in addition to the stimulus package that we provided throughout the country in terms of food aid that people benefited from, some of the sectors like tourism that were seriously hard hit, we partnered with our development partners, or in some instances, the government came in as a sole provider to provide support to some of these sectors. In this particular incident that you talked about, the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, came in and provided support to the Ministry of Tourism. They did their mapping and came up with a support package which was distributed to a number of employees in that sector. Yes, the amount you quoted, is not enough, but it was a gesture that was provided, and we appreciate it. That is why government also came up with its own funding, package to provide the necessary support to some of these businesses, because these businesses, when we open the tourism sector, they will come back to business. But you need to have some kind of support given to them to prepare, to upgrade their facilities, to ensure that they are fully prepared for the season, and then they can bring back in their employees so that, those people too will be in gainful employment. So all these are like, different mix of activities that we are doing to ensure that support is rendered to the people of the country.
Okay, we'll give my colleagues to ask. I have 7 more questions.
Yes. Thank you, Africa. Thank you. Any other questions? Honorable, we have a question here from QTV.
Yes.
And yes, I just want them to give us like 2 minutes.
Is that the one that came as a text question that recently a British channel aired a sex video on Gambian beaches?
Yes, yes.
What is your ministry's reaction to this?
Yes.
Well, as always, as a ministry, it is our wish that those people who are working with, filmmakers that are coming into the country, work with the relevant authorities to get the, right, information on the country. But we also have to admit that, some of these things that were mentioned in that particular piece, some may be true, but some may be an exaggeration. And it also boils down to, ethical journalism also. That when you want to do a story, you strive to get, both sides to ensure that there is kind of balance. We all live in this country. We also know that you have young people who are married to elderly people, visitors. That is a true situation. That one is true in some instances, but there are also, over exaggeration in that story of certain things that may not be true. So I think as a country, we all need to, see that, anything that is reported about the Gambia, especially the negative things, are a dent on our collective image. So therefore, when people come to do a report, because these people came without contacting our ministry for the filming permit, which is a norm anywhere in the world. When you want to go into a country to do a filming of this nature, you get a filming permit so that, the relevant authorities can be aware of the issues that you want to raise. Can be aware of the issues that you want to raise, and then if they require that the authorities be contacted for their side of the story, that can be done. But in this particular incident, I think either they hired some local camera crew who did the production for them, or they sneak into the country and did not actually declare the intention of what they wanted to do in the country. Either way, I think some of the issues that they reported on are true, but there are some that I think were complete exaggeration. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Honorable. Do we have any other questions?
Yes, Honorable, I have a question. There are reports that
yes,
the Gambia government has compensated some UDP, especially the leadership of UDP who were one time under detention in early 2016. From a court ruling of from ECOWAS court, they did a ruling in which Gambia government is expected to give compensation. Such information, we didn't see it on media, or neither the government coming out to tell the public. Can you authenticate if that is true, and how much was being compensated to these UDP victims of 2016?
Well, let me say that since 2017, when the new government came into office, we inherited what I call legacy judicial judgments against the government of the Gambia, either at the Supreme Court, the High Court, or the ECOWAS Community Court. Now, as part of our commitment to international justice delivery mechanisms, we adhere to all the rulings, even those that we inherited, and those that were initiated, but the judgments were delivered during our time. We, respected the decisions of those courts, and we have been in constant negotiation with some of these cases outside of the Gambia. Actually, in some cases, especially the ECOWAS Community Court, you could see that, the judgments could go as much as $100,000 for one individual. So government, through the Ministry of Justice, had been in constant discussion with some of these people. And we have been periodically, paying the judgments against the government of the Gambia, which were actually initiated during former President Yahya Jammeh's time on human rights violations and a whole lot of things. But because, government is about a continuous process, we honored those, our obligation under the ECOWAS community, court system. And in the case of this particular one, the case against the UDP one, I have not been properly briefed on this, but I can get the right information so that, I can tell you exactly how much was disbursed as part of our, responsibility under this particular case. I have not been fully briefed on it. I have never discussed it with anybody, and it was never brought to my attention, but we can find out and then, give you the full information.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable. QTV, they have.
Let me also say that I remember that in this particular tourism story, we were once approached by, I think, a Gambian producer who wanted to hire some local crew to do some filming in the tourism industry. We rejected and declined the request based on the fact that they did not provide to us the filming agenda and a whole lot of things. And if it is actually related to this particular one, it is going to be a very serious disappointment on their part to be used by outside channels, being local producers in this country, for them to do their bidding, knowing that if you want to come into this country, you have to come with your camera equipment and all sort of things. And now if they can only send in a producer who comes in as a tourist, and then they use local producers who are our own citizens to go around and then do some of these things, I think, that is a matter that we all have to reflect on seriously as a country, because at the end of the day, there is what we call ethical journalism also. And we should all endeavor to strive to see that we implement that even in our own private entities.
We have a question from TV.
Yes, question.
Information.
Oh yes, I saw this question from
appointed Minister of Trade have rejected his appointment, so they wanted to confirm if this information is accurate or not.
Okay, yes, I have seen this question from QTV.
Yes.
Whether the the newly appointed Minister of Trade, Mr. Bakari Jammeh, has rejected his ministerial appointment. I also saw it in social media.
From QTV.
I have not confirmed it. Yes, I have not confirmed it, but I can, ask the relevant authorities. I don't know whether if it is true, because this is just in the social media. He was appointed between yesterday and this morning, and whether his rejection letter has reached the authorities or not, I don't know. But I also don't know whether the story is in fact true. So I'll find that out and then get back to you.
Okay, Honorable, I have another question. In relation to the land borders, what's the plan of the government Is it open or still now it is closed? If it is closed, how soon are we expecting for the land borders to open? Because I believe the deadline of...
If you can raise your voice a little bit, I'm not hearing you clearly.
Okay, I said in relation to the land borders.
Okay.
Can you update us if is the border still closed? If yes, how soon are we expecting it to open? Because I believe that the ECOWAS deadline for member state countries to consider reopening borders have already allowed some months ago. Why still Gambia border is not yet open? And the same issue in relation to border, we know that by next week the Magal Tuba will be held in Senegal. What mechanism is the government putting in place in relation to some of the people who want to take part in such pilgrimage in Senegal?
Well, regarding the land borders, I guess you know that there has been no official statement on the reopening of the borders yet. This is the situation, within the West Africa region as a whole. If you want to make a travel, say from one country to the other, you go through a special, process where, you are tested first, and that is within 72 hours before you leave the country. Because if not, if you go into the third country, like say Senegal, you will be forced to pay for the a COVID test. So what is happening right now is that countries within the region are in direct negotiation and discussion on a number of key issues which are related to health safety measures, but also security issues to ensure that, everybody that is situation like this. Now, regarding the Magal, I guess, they will also follow the same process. If you want to go out of the country, of course, you have to do a COVID test. And if that test, test that you have done, that allowed you to, say, enter in a third country within 72 hours. If you spend more than 72 hours there, when you are coming back to the Gambia, you have to also do a COVID test again or come up with a certificate that shows that, you are negative. If not, you will be taken for isolation or quarantine. So this is the thing. But regarding the specific measures for the Magal, the Ministry of Health is preparing a report on this, and then it will be made known to the public.
Okay. How do you categorize this? Being tested, then we can go to a public country. How do you categorize it? Is it?
How do I see it?
Yeah. How do you categorize?
Well,
it? Is the border still open? Yes or no?
No, the border is officially not open. That's what I was telling you. A lot of efforts to ease the burden, the travel burden on people. Governments in West Africa have taken this decision that you can travel, yes, from one country to the other, but you have to have a valid health certificate so that within the last 72 hours, enter into another country, for example, like Senegal or Ghana or anywhere, you are forced to do a test first before you can be allowed for you to continue with, for you to continue on your journey. So how I see it, I think these are part of health measures that all countries are taking. And I think we should all endeavor to, collaborate and cope with the situation that is here right now. It's not only in the Gambia. Even if we allow you to go out, immediately you enter into other countries, they will force you to go through a test. And it may even be, that, you have to pay for it. Here as a Gambian, when you want to do a COVID test, it is free on you. When you go to another country, you may pay as much as maybe $100 or $150 in some countries. Some, I think in Senegal, you pay about $2,000, which is like $40. So, travelers have to be aware of all these things so that you know that these are some of the issues that are there even if you travel out. So there is a question here from Jenaba Sonko. He said land disputes are becoming so common in the Gambia. The latest land dispute is that of the Nyamina Sambang. Is the government aware of this problem? If yes, what is the Ministry of Lands doing to solve the problem before it goes out of hand? Well, the government of the Gambia, local government initiatives, across the country, including the offices of governors in the regions, are working with the necessary traditional authorities and the security services to ensure that, some of these disputes. The Nyamina issue, of course, the government is aware. Sent there. First, what we do is to use the dispute resolution mechanism available at the local level to prevail on the belligerent parties to, keep the peace and allow government to investigate and then come up with, a definitive solution. If that is not done, then, parties, the courts can come up with a judgment, and that judgment is expected to be respected. If you think that you are aggrieved, you can also appeal up to the Supreme Court. And this is what we have been telling everyone. You don't need to take up arms against each other to fight over a piece of land or things like that. Allow the process of negotiation and conflict resolution mechanisms to be effective. And if at any instance those are not able to resolve the problem, then the belligerents themselves can take up the matter in the courts. This is a democracy. But I guess when the courts in their final judgment, especially at the highest level of our judicial system, make a final judgment, the parties should respect the judgments of the court. If not, then the security forces will enforce the judgment orders. Yes, anyone?
Okay. Honorable Minister, of recent, I don't know, yesterday or day before yesterday, the IEC, the Independent Electoral Commission, awarded contract of over $3 million to a Canadian-based company, in which we made to believe that the tender was also being competed by some Gambian businesses in the country. So looking at countries try to really control their electoral system by doing everything internally. Giving such a contract to a foreign-based company, and also we need to believe that even when it comes to the bidding, that particular company which is being awarded with such a contract is the highest bidder. Are you privy to any information in relation to that, why the contract was such magnitude of over $150 million is awarded to the Canadian-based company? Because there is an outcry that this government is not really supporting Gambian businesses.
Okay, let me say that when it comes to the Independent Electoral Commission and their internal processes, especially for tender and contracts, the central government, and I mean, when I mean central government, I mean the operation and policy arm of the government does not have any say in those type of things, because those are their internal processes. Government and the National Assembly, which is also an independent arm, working separately. When we prepare, when the budget of the Independent Electoral Commission is prepared, is approved by the National Assembly, and then the funds are made available to them. Now, annually, they are audited to ensure that funds that were given to them, are managed in line with best practices. But how they manage and how they give out the contracts to, companies or enterprises based on their internal rules, we have no control over that. But I can also tell you, because you are talking about a foreign, a company here with elections. I have worked in several African countries on election projects. Kenya, Ghana. I can tell you that in most of these countries, there are certain components of election projects that, of course, indeed are awarded to foreign-based reputable companies that have experience in this type of area. And I don't know this particular contract. I've not heard about it, but, I can find out and then, bring back the information to you. But all what I can tell you is how the Independent Electoral Rules and Affairs, the central government has no role in that one.
My final question. In Buyam, in the Phoenix, we see that
yes,
Gambian Transport Union or Gambian drivers continue to cry out loud in terms of
yes,
the economic checkpoint which is being installed in that. It went up to a level that people continue to accuse the government of even not really considering their safety, because of recent, this year alone, more than 10 accidents have occurred in that, and millions of dollars have dropped. Why still now government didn't come to conclusion in terms for the easing of, or for the flow, for the easy movement of goods or cars? Because I believe you know that place is like a sort of a circle or a curve.
A bend,
so
often,
often,
a smart bend.
Yeah. Often truck
okay, but let me tell you. Let me tell you that the Ministry of Defense was approached by the Transport Union, and they are discussing this matter. If it is endangering the lives of people, especially those in the vehicles that ply that particular route, Of course, it is the responsibility of the government to see that those things are was contacted the Ministry of Trade, and I can tell you that their pleas are not,
Okay, of recent, that consultation that you are saying in relation to the transport union and the Ministry of Defense, things went up to a level that even the drivers wanted to do a sit-down strike. Yeah, there was an agreement between both sides that even if the checkpoint is not being moved from that place, but mechanism will be put in place for the free flowing of vehicles. But for 2 to 3 months now, nothing has been done on that. Can it be possible for you to get us an official version from these people come
yes,
next press conference, so as we know what is really happening? What is really happening, Pasi?
Okay, I know that the particular area, the contacts were made recently, as far as I was made aware. and the engagements are going on. But I can let the Ministry of Transport that of those negotiations and discussions. So for making it to this week press conference, and hope to see you again with all of you. Yes, QTV is saying for us to share the statement that I read earlier on. Yes, we will send it to all of you immediately after this press conference. So thank you so much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and hope to see you again, inshallah, next week for another press briefing on Friday. Thank you.
Debunking COVID-19 myths. Myth 1.
Gis nga yow yaa ngi ree sa bopp tàngoor bi nii man gis nga man ragaluma COVID-19 coronavirus mënul da téye nit ku ñuul.
déedéet boy coronavirus dina jàpp bépp xeet dina jàpp bépp der dina jàpp bépp réew te gis nañ lum fi def ci réew yu nekk Afrika ak ko wóor te Gambia si la bokk Covid-19 lu am la boo nga xam loolu
2
suma caame ndax lekk laaj mun na laa
firndelu ko continuer raxasam loxo mi te nga joxe diggante seen nit yooyu jokkalanteel te nga toppa sarta yi nag yuñ ñu tegtal pour nga mun cee muccaaleel si sa njaboot yeeg sa dëkkandoor yeeg ak àdduna si yëpp.
myth 3
suma caame mbaa xam nga ne feebari coronavirus bii Gambia bokku parce que feebar bii mënut a dunda si réew yu tàngay
déet soxna coronavirus daal si suñu réew dëkkandoo bi ñuy def daal saa su ne neen raxas suñuy loxo mun a génne jàngoro bu nekk ñuy moytu ak suñuy loxo war a bakket war a génne.
myth 4
waaw nijaay
waaw
feebari coronavirus bi maa dégg rek feebari réewum
ku
taalal
la wax
ñun
loolu
waa def ji bokkul foofu dara loolu feebari réewum taalal
déedéet feebar bii dina jàpp ku am na ñu ci dëkk bi feebar bi lu xam la de te ñëpp lay jàpp nag wasalaam.
Star GSM fele promotion bana fena molye minul be ko bundala Gambia banko kanjang minubuko policeol armed forceol immigration customs anil lanjurtol datalar bala keta smartphone la minka sanu wini woro doma isa soto minka sanu wini woro sang wini lu minka sanu wini lu sang wini nani manda smartphone doma simple phone fanan minul ka sanu kemelula sang kemenani talulu milbe kemenani talulu sang kemesaba talulu ning original techno simple phone minu ka sanu keme konontola sang keme woro wala isa soto mobile ambulance odum keme woro doma Star GSM e tableto soto le pro dinningol wuli killing keme sey doma isa soto nin tabletul ka sim card uta wili fula keme saba isa soto HD universal remote ul fanan bijele flat screen ul mini yalon ko la receiver be konole 42 lombang wala 43 inches isi soto no $4,999 wala $8,999 Star GSM manda wodom mala ngani original face mask sol sotole minsal tanka coronavirus sotola nga air freshener fanan sotole pour alla sabati dinkiral aning official nyim bala muran tulul fanan bijele nyim flash couple ka bonali America alse muna fangala la official do wara la sabati dinkiral pour jikando wala jisuma anda se sambano tilo mume ngani designer spray fanan sotale min sero ka tarafengo bala fo montoro wati monni nani andi botanam France le anin Dubai isina jibe no na bumbato min fele kombosila drive serekunda OJ Johnson nyati lingol wala nanyun kunkilim bitikol min fele talindi marseto anin tabo koto traffic light oto isen kumandino 70024 901122 Star GSM mfanankan kato dango kele puru mimbe bango sambala nyato
lu bari wusi coronavirus lu lawla jangoro bi aka deger boppa ngala jox ma sa noppa corona kan be fatu anoda eva passing sneezes
Alaikum salam. Nenda. Sen fan bi ñaata la?
Abi.
Ah, comme yele la.
Sorry, soxna si balal ma.
Ah. May mo ma. Bare. Te dama bëgg sétu suma liggéey kat seen wéru gu yaram.
Dëgg la.
Te lii dama ko wara am. Ut naa ko fu nekk mënuma ko.
am ko yóbbu na de
Ha?
mu fi
Lii foo ko amee yow?
gis nga bu fekkee da boo jógee Westfield mel ni ku dem Kairaba bi
Waaw.
booy rombu Alliance Franco rek
Waaw.
rombu AIC
Waaw.
building bi ci topp
Waaw.
ñu koy wax smartphone house
Waaw.
boo fa duggee rek loo ci soxla ñu jaay la ko
Yow man foofu dinaa ci mën a am lu bari lu tolloog fukka.
loo ci soxla ñu jaay la ko te ni nga ko bëggee noonu lañ koy defee
Gis nga yow da nga muus. Gis nga lii waxuma la man rek waaye ku nekk daf ko war a ut.
maa la wax loolu
Lii jaadu rek
gi
te boo ko amee nag teg sa température sa xel dafay dal
wax dëgg yàlla
ñëpp
bari na ñuy dox foog ne ñu ngi feebar te ragal a dem lopitaan
boo paree dem fa ñu jaay la ko boo àggee rek ñu dul la ko
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وحده وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على من لا نبي بعده وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We send blessings and salutations upon Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, all his companions. May Allah bless his entire household and may Allah bless every single one of us and grant us all goodness and ease. My brothers, Khabbab ibn al-Arat radiyallahu anhu. This man has an amazing story. His name was Khabbab ibn al-Arat. Young boy, he had come from Najd in the eastern part of the Arabian Peninsula. And what happened is, there was a war that took place in Najd when he was a young boy and the enemy was victorious. Saved the little boys and girls and whoever there was, and they sold them in the markets as slaves. So one of those who was sold in the market in Quraysh was this young boy known as Khabbab ibn al-Arat, and a woman known as Anmar al-Khuza'iyya bought him. And what she did, she found that he was a very intelligent boy, but now he was enslaved. So she decided to send him to the top blacksmiths in Quraysh to learn how to make swords. And he became a person at a very young age. He knew how to make swords in Quraysh. So the top leaders of Quraysh used to come to this young man in order to make their swords, because he made the best. So even the leaders knew who Khabbab was, and they knew that this man, Ibn al-Arat, he is a slave of Anmar. So one day, as he was making one of his swords, and some of the top brass of Mecca was standing near him, he was so happy and he was excited. He was saying to himself, you know what? What he is saying is the truth. So they looked at him and they said, what are you talking about? Who is saying the truth? He says, haven't you heard about what's going on here? So they said, what are you on about? What is it? Who are you talking about? Now Khabbab ibn al-Arat, prior to this, he always used to sit on his own. He did not have many friends. And because he was from afar, he used to think what Quraysh is doing is actually unacceptable. They are enslaving their little girls. They are burying them alive. They are burying their girls alive, and at the same time they are fighting with each other over small things. They are worshipping idols and whatnot. All this is wrong. So now that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had come out with the deen, Khabbab ibn al-Arat was so excited, and he said, I always used to say to myself, one day all this nonsense has to come to an end. So he was so happy. So these people asked him, what are you talking about? He said, haven't you heard about Muhammad? May peace be upon him. He is the messenger of Allah, and he's calling towards the truth. So they became very angry, and they began to tell the others, look at what this Khabbab is saying. Until the brother of Anmar, whose name was Siba' ibn Abd al-Uzza, what he did is he came